Hey folks, how's it going? So today we're talking about budget. Now, before we get into the video, if this is our first time meeting, hello, my name is Jay. What we do on this channel is we review speakers, audio, headphones, anything to do with audio and music quality. And to improve it as well, we do tutorials and stuff like that. So if this is something you're interested in, if you have a passion for music and quality, then please do consider subscribing because it would be great to have you around. And also, it doesn't cost you anything while it still helps us out. Now, another way to help us out is clicking that like button, so please do consider doing that as well. Now, if it's not our first encounter and you've seen me before, hello, once again, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about budget. Now, the speakers I'm going to recommend here for Nearfield is going to be the PSB P5 speakers I have over here. Okay, I'm using them as a Nearfield. Now, if you check the review in the description below, I did a review of the P5 bookshelf speakers here with the P3 bookshelf speakers, which also works great in Nearfield. And in the review, I say that the bookshelves are wonderful for Nearfield. Now, I can't say that about a lot of the bookshelves. Quite frankly, even the higher end bookshelves will not really work in a Nearfield setup. It will be boomy, it will be unclear, because they're not really made for a situation like this where they're close to the back wall and stuff like this. Quite frankly, the PSB P5 and the P3 speakers here, they're designed to be actually wall mounted in some cases, so they're designed with that in mind. So it's not going to get boomy, it's going to be actually quite linear and sound really, really good, both in stereo and in Nearfield. So check the review if you are more interested in the speakers. Now, going further, these speakers are quite good because they're quite smooth. They're not going to murder your ears with poor recordings. So if you play Spotify or something like that, you will still be happy with it. Now, if you move on to Tidal or higher recordings, then you will still be able to reap the benefits of those well-recorded tracks. So here is a speaker that is very forgiving yet easy to work with in a Nearfield setup that you can consider. Now, moving on to what we actually pair up with. Quite frankly, after I reviewed these speakers, I got a lot of questions in my email box asking, what did you pair up with? What is something that you would recommend in a Nearfield desktop setup? Now, obviously, if you pair them up with, $2,000 integrated amplifiers or, even receivers, it will sound quite decent in a stereo setup. But what do you need for a desktop setup that won't take up too much real estate on your desk space while still being able to function the way you want, things to function? And for that, I'm going to recommend the SMSL Class D amplifier right here. And so this is the D88S from SMSL. This is one of their newest Class D amplifiers. So the Class D amplifier chip is actually made in Germany. It's by Infineon. And you can check in the description below about their technology. It's quite a good Class D chip that they came up with here. So they're pushing about 40 watts into 8 ohms and 80 watts into 4 ohms. That's pretty much enough power for these bookshelf speakers and the P3 bookshelf speakers from the PSB line. And they're going to be quite good for most bookshelf speakers in a Nearfield setup. But again, I can't recommend a lot of bookshelf speakers in a Nearfield setup because most of them would get boomy. Even KEF LS50s I found in some or a lot of cases to get really boomy even with the foam plugged in. So despite the price point, just scratch the price point for a minute, there is really a lot of speakers out there that I can't recommend for a Nearfield setup. PSB speakers are speakers that I can wholeheartedly recommend for a Nearfield setup. So if you're at an office, if this is part of your office system, if you're someone starting new, if you're in a dorm room and you're a university student, this is something I would recommend as a setup. Now let's talk about the downside. Because in terms of sound quality, it's not a lot you can do with it. I mean, of course, the PSBs can sound really good with a $2,000, $5,000, or $1,000 integrated amplifiers. It'll sound better, but we're talking about budget here, and we're talking about Nearfield. When we talk about receivers, for example, because I know some of you guys are gonna ask me. those work. Those work. Don't get me wrong. Marantz receivers, stand-in receivers, they will work around $500, $800 price points. They will work in a stereo setup, but they just won't work on a desktop. As you can see, the real estate is going to be quite hard to work with. So I want to recommend something small, and that's the SMSL. It's very, very small, as you can see here. Okay, that's it. Now let's talk about the downside, because I think the downside is quite significant here. The downside of the SMSL is that it doesn't have any digital inputs. So it has Bluetooth. So if you have a Bluetooth computer, laptop, iPad, phone, then you can play music through Bluetooth, and it works very well. Heck, it even has a remote. Okay, I'll show you here. It has a plastic remote, works quite well, volume controls, inputs and outputs, tone control. It has tone control as well, so this means that you can increase the bass, you can decrease the treble, whatever you like. But I never really played around with that because I just don't like it. I'm a purist. Now, it has RCA inputs and XLR inputs, but it doesn't have digital inputs. It doesn't have coax. It doesn't have USB. It doesn't have optical. It doesn't have any digital input. So this means that you're gonna have to get a DAC with it, which is not a huge downside because you can get like a $100 DAC from JDS Labs, which is what I recommend. It sounds really, really good for the price. It sounds really, really good. So I would recommend JDS Labs DACs when you buy this to go with it. And it will sound wonderful. It will sound smooth. It will sound punchy. It will sound holographic, within the given space of a near field, if you so will. And it will just have really good imaging, and you'll have a very good musical experience. And what I'm hoping to do through this video is not sponsored or anything like that. In this video, I just want to make sure that, if you're a person that's entering the world of hi-fi, I want this setup to be able to grab you and say, look what's possible. And this system I wholeheartedly recommend because I think it can do that. And, I wouldn't be recommending it for any other reason. If you're a person in an office and you're, if you've been an audiophile for a while and you have a, very good stereo setup, then you may consider this for an office setup. It will sound good and sound decent for, whatever the application may be. But really this video is for someone who's starting out. This is a fantastic system for the budget. It's really, really good. And so this is what I recommend. I'm not going into too much detail here in terms of sound quality. It's gonna sound smooth. It's gonna sound really good. The imaging is gonna be good. The bass is gonna be tight. You may want to add a subwoofer down the line, but that's a whole different story, right? So here is something that you can start off with on the desktop. Hey, look, I have a very, very good system, and I get stuff in all the time. I listen to it on a daily basis. I review a lot of gear, and here I am. I bought these speakers myself. I bought the PSP P5 speakers myself, and I'm using it with this. Now the SMSL was sent by Shenzhen Audio, so thank you for sending that in the description below. But if you watched me for a while, companies send me stuff to review all the time. I have no problems with sending stuff back because I get to play around with a lot of gear that comes in and goes. So I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna dump my integrity because of a $200-something amplifier here. And I'm sure there's a lot of budget amplifiers that sound really good that has a Class D chip inside. Just happens to be one that I can confirm that it sounds really good. Okay, you can look for other options around this price range from SMSL or Toppings or whatever the company, but this just happens to be the one that I heard, and it sounds, I'm telling you, it sounds really, really good for the price, and it gets very close to a Class AB sound. Now, it's not a Class AB sound. It's not going to be better than ICE modules in my opinion, but it gets very, very close, like 80%, 90% close for the fraction of the money. You see, even though it's a small device, everything works flawlessly, and SMSL has come a long way to make a product like this. And I think it's very important to just note that this is not going to be a $1,000 integrated amplifier. It's not going to beat the Billy amplifier, which is a Class D amplifier hybrid that I reviewed recently. It's not going to beat any of that. It's not going to get even close in terms of performance. It's just not. The clarity, the depth, sounds, it's just not. But this is a very good starting point. No one's gonna dispute that. You hear that system downstairs, downstairs, you hear my system, and then you come here and you hear this system, you're gonna be like, wow, for the fraction of money, that sounds really, really good. And that's exactly why I bought these speakers, and that's why I'm pairing it up with this. Now currently I'm using the DAC from the Parasound, which is a integrated amplifier. But I'm soon going to switch this out because the Parasound I have to send back is going to be sent back soon. So I'm gonna have a $100 DAC I have from JDS Labs hooked up to that, and it's gonna sound fine. I've already tried it. It sounds quite good. So this is something that you definitely might want to consider when you are looking for a budget sound. I wouldn't look any further for a Nearfield. I'll go for as to say that. So thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.